Okay, so I have both halves hollowed out. They're hollowed out evenly throughout. So I've done multiple needle tool checks throughout to have the same thickness throughout, to have this thickness. But what I need to do now is I need to use my needle tool. And I am gonna make sure that if there is, because I built this from a solid mass, there is a high possibility that there is still some areas of air within this form that I have not carved out. As I was carving out, like I was coming across open areas where there were little air pockets. So by taking my needle tool and just jabbing through it, doesn't matter if I go to the other side, I could smooth and refine it back. Really doesn't make a difference, but I want to do this on both sides really well. If you have a really large piece, yes, this does take some time. So you could use a fork because you have multiple prongs that are making holes. This is relatively small though, so it's not going to take me very long to do. And this again just ensures any residual air pockets being taken care of, so the piece does not blow up. And you can see, like, I've stabbed through. It doesn't matter. I could just soften. I have to carve all that anyway. So I'm just getting this as thoroughly done as possible. All right, so now that this piece is hollowed, stabbed repeatedly, because it is like really pretty leather hard-ish, I am gonna wanna make sure that this is really scored and slipped well. So this is definitely gonna be some of those times where I'm gonna go over this multiple times with slip, scoring, slip again, scoring, slip again, and so forth, to really make sure this connection point is nice and soft, it goes together well. Good. Match the piece up. So this is where if the piece was too wet when I hollowed it and was too damp as I was doing that, and the sides ended up starting to flex out and alter in shape, putting it back together might be really difficult because my ends might not meet back up well. So picking the stage, not rushing this hollowing process, doing it too early is not a good idea. So I need to really make sure that these seams are pressed together well. So this is not only just the move back and forth locking, this is move back and forth locking, and then I'm taking my fingers and I am pushing along that seam in every point, because I really need this to be fully attached. This will take a little bit of time. Don't rush this part. This is what's going to either have your piece split back apart after firing or stay together well. So even at the bottom, making sure that that seam is really pressed together. So again, that's why really scoring and slipping those two halves is really important, because or else if you don't, it's not going to be soft enough to do this. All right, my seam looks pretty well connected. What I need to do now is make sure that I do a reinforced coil over the entire seam. And very similar to hard slab building of your box, lantern, this is a very small coil. So I'm pushing it into that seam. This is really going to help connect these two areas back together. But again, I'm not using a lot of clay. This is a small coil. And now I'm just going to take the time to blend half of the coil in the one direction and half of the coil in the other direction. And I'll do this all over. And I can at any time too use this metal rib tool in a diagonal direction to really refine where I've attached that coil. But the last and most important thing of everything is making sure once I have reassembled it, and it doesn't matter where you put this, you need to put one hole in the form for air to escape. Note that I'm using this tool. I am not using this tool to just put one little tiny hole. It needs to be somewhat substantial, okay? And I need to make sure that that does not block up at any point. And of course I put it in an area usually where you can't see it. That needs to remain like that through glaze, through everything.